Horizon d'Afrique, a production of Kwasambia African TV, bridging Africa to the world.
This program is brought to you by the Yates Initiative. Yates Illuminates.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in once again at Kwasambia African TV. This is Horizon d'Afrique. My name is Frank Tucker Eban, and again coming to you to talk to you about what's going on in the community, the updates about what's happening here in our greater Omaha, Nebraska. A few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to receive Dr. Petrescu and Marie-Hélène of the Yates Foundation. And here we are to talk about what happened, what's the next steps, and what actually happened from saving the Yates to where we are today. I have a special guest today. Some of you may already know or heard of her. Today I'm receiving exactly Dr. Kathy Weitz. Kathy, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here. It's really an honor.
It is lovely to have you indeed with us, all right?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kathy Weitz is, now Kathy, I'm going to turn to you about this. You are a school teacher by training.
That's right.
And by passion as well.
That's right.
And I do know that you have a PhD in education policy and human development.
Yes.
But you are mostly known for your community and engagement to the greater good. Your family and the team you work with are known as champions of the greater good. So we're having you today because, we talked about the Yates initiative. So can you tell us more about that? Why did you get involved with that?
Oh, yes. The Yates Initiative actually began when my daughter's best friend, her uncle, is part of the Gifford Park Neighborhood Association, and he'd been deeply involved in the Save Yates movement. And they were getting frustrated, and they weren't sure that they were going to be able to purchase the building. And they felt like they needed some funders and some people with deep pockets to come in and show that there was some seriousness and some gravity behind the effort. And so he reached out to me, and we texted a little bit, and then I met with Mark Snow at the Omaha Public Schools, and then I met with Gifford Park Neighborhood Association, and they had a community meeting, and it was more stakeholders in this meeting than I had ever seen. Neighbors, business owners, artists, young people, legislators, unicameral. Everyone was there, and it was a truly beautiful thing. January of 2020, they had a vision of what they wanted and what they believed could happen inside the Yates Elementary School building. And my imagination was captured, my heart was captured. And so it wasn't very hard to be talked into attending their meetings and going to school board meetings and so on.
Well, Kathy, I mean, it goes without saying. I can just tell with a smile when you talk about it how deeply, how personal, the Yates project gets into you. But for our viewers who, for some of them watching us today and hearing us talking about the Yates, could you please tell us what does the Yates represent beyond just a building? What is it exactly that we're talking about there?
So I first encountered Yates as a place for new Americans learning English as a second language and participating in some additional work, sharing their folk tales, writing books, making clothes, with sewing machines when I was a program officer at the Sherwood Foundation. And at that time, Yates Elementary was really the home for any asylum seeker, refugee, immigrant, migrant student to come and get some of the sort of first steps of assimilation or integration into the community. And it was a place that OPS had really placed their most talented and caring individuals, and so it didn't matter who showed up at the door or what was happening during that time. They would take a moment, talk with the family, inquire about the children or the parents, and really connect them to whatever services they need. And even then, I felt like there was a beautiful energy there of everybody wanting everyone else to succeed and not just survive, but thrive. So Yates has been, I think since the late 90s, a place for new Americans, also a place for Native Americans. The indigenous education took place there in the early childhood. So it was a very special place. The artist Thurman Statham made a beautiful garden with the Native students. And unfortunately, they moved it with OPS when they sold the building, but there's a lot of beautiful history there of newcomers to our community
Right.
finding their home.
Right. So to stay in that perspective, could you please tell us more about what has OPS's involvement been? How, because acquiring the building clearly, I will assume was a hassle. It was, it wasn't that easy. So what was OPS's involvement with acquiring the Yates?
I think there was a real duality.
Right.
OPS and the administration really needed to do what was best for the financial well-being
Right.
of the district, for the students of the district, and the school board was really caught in the middle. We had several opportunities to talk with the superintendent about our vision,
Right.
but it was hard for us to put a number behind it. It was hard for us to explain the financial wherewithal, that how it would be sustained. And so the school district was put in a tricky position. And in the end, they did allow both parties, one a large developer from out of state that had a larger offer, and the Gifford Park Neighborhood Association and the organizations related to the Save Yates initiative
Right.
to be heard. And the mission of OPS is where the school board went.
Right.
They really believe that we have to focus on children and families, and knowing that 40% of the Omaha Public School children either are English language learners or were English language learners.
Right.
This is not a small segment. This is not a group you just cast aside. This is the heart of our district.
Right.
And we really want to make sure that they have a safe and inviting place. So
Right.
I was so thrilled that the public school board, Mark Snow was the chair, and I believe Amanda Ryan
Right.
made the motion to accept the Yates bid, and
Right.
Kimera Snipe, and it was really a beautiful. I was yelling. I was
Beautiful.
cheering.
How beautiful indeed,
It was
Kathy.
so beautiful.
And I really want to stay with the main and major contributions to making sure that the Yates initiatives and the project is actually saved.
Right.
So again, I like to dive into your participation into that. Right. I mean, the Wise Foundation has been involved. I mean, your level of involvement in the community, spans from supporting the Boys and Girls Clubs,
Yes.
of the Midlands.
Yes.
Being here, also supporting adopting animals in needs. I learned that about you as well. So how do you move from all of that to such a personal interest in ensuring that immigrants and refugees that come here have somewhat an easy path into full integration in Omaha?
Yes.
What drives you into it personally?
My mom is a social worker, and she, even in the early days when there was conflict in Central America, her heart was with the Nebraska Peace Movement, and they did a lot of work with asylum seekers.
Right.
And so I think my mom has really instilled in us the value and how much we can learn from people who come here. We're so lucky to have these immigrants and refugees. I wish they were not in dire circumstances, but we're so lucky to have them here.
Right.
The richness they bring, the diversity is so important. So my mom has a lot of strong feelings about making sure that people are safe and that they feel welcome.
Right.
And so this particular initiative was interesting because there was a community already there,
Right.
reaching out, holding on to this population. The Gifford Park Neighborhood Association is 60% Caucasian, and then it's 10% Latino and 10% Asian East Pacific, and 10% African and African diaspora and
Right.
African American, and then 10% mixed races.
Right.
It's the most diverse census tract in all of Omaha, and all of Nebraska.
Right.
And so to have this community want to embrace and want to create this space, not want it for themselves to have their own, shops and parties, but to have it be for themselves, the neighborhood, the community, and the newcomers, and to really have it be a place that could be integrated. We're
Right.
so segregated in Omaha. We don't worship together, we don't eat together. Sometimes we work together, but there's not a lot of places where we have that intentional opportunity to learn from one another, to share a meal.
Right.
And so this really spoke to my mom, and she really wanted to make it happen. And she has experience. The Barbara Weitz Community Engagement Center on the UNO campus was one of her visions also, to have nonprofits come together and amplify each other's mission and work with students. And here, it was a similar idea, nonprofits coming together to work with the neighbors and with students, and to amplify one another's mission to create a greater community.
Right. Well, Kathy, I really want to join our viewers and people who know you to thank you and thank your mother's beautiful soul to inspire you to doing what you do for the Yates and for the people in our community. So for our viewers tuning in, we are here at Kwazampia African TV, broadcasting at Thomas Sankara studio here in Omaha, Nebraska. Today we're talking about the Yates initiatives. A few weeks ago, we've already talked about it and you know, had to review some of the initiatives, the projects coming in to make sure that Omaha is providing a place livable for all the immigrants and refugees coming to town. So Dr. Weitz is here to talk to us about, you know, what's happening next with the Yates and what we can be expecting from that beautiful initiatives. And on that note, though, I really want to ask this. It goes without saying that some of the issues that newly arriving immigrants here and refugees in town encounter when it comes to full integration in Omaha is access to opportunities and positions of leadership in a community. So what do you see the Yates initiative or project, you know, creating or doing to illuminate on this problem?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. I feel like even from the beginning, when the neighborhood was wanting to appeal to the Omaha Public School Board, they didn't put me up. They put the new Americans up. They put the people who had been here and who learned English at Yates to have them speak, to have their own voice, and to be heard about what was meaningful to them about this space. And the community understands the power of the newly arrived immigrant to share what their needs are, what their experiences have been, and where they can be successful. And so as we move into more development at Yates, all of our contracting we're trying to do with new Americans, minority-owned businesses, and neighborhood businesses. So we're hoping that people will have the opportunity to be employed on projects related to Yates. We're hoping that they'll bring their businesses and skills to bear on Yates, whether it's being a supplier or being a food vendor or teaching classes or providing workshops. We're hoping that there will be a lot of opportunities for the asylum seekers and the refugees and the migrants and the immigrants to be the spokesperson, to be the leader. And as we're developing the governance of inside Yates, as our tenants are coming together, we do have new Americans who are representing their organizations, like Restoring Dignity, like Families in Action, like Intercultural Senior Center. We're having the folks who are most affected, who are in leadership roles in their workplaces, in their nonprofits, be the decision makers about how we spend our budget, what's the organization of the tenants, how do we decide who's shoveling the snow or mowing the lawns. So it's really going to have many leadership opportunities inside Yates. And then additionally, to your point, this is a place where people will be able to find their voice, share their stories, connect with others and a broader community. I really loved how Maria Helene was saying you have to expand your circle and your network beyond your community of origin. And this will be a place where they can do that. And I do believe that this will be a launching pad for our next city council person and our next unicameral state senator and our next governor. Let's have it.
Let's have it. Let's have it indeed. Let's have it indeed. So, and I like that because, you know, as you talked about it, I can just see the light. I mean, I can feel that the Yates is definitely going to illuminate, you know, all of us here in the community. And what a beautiful thing that Omaha in this increasingly globalizing world is providing a place where people can feel like being at home, people can feel like being welcomed and feel as Americans, right? I love that. I'm very passionate about that, and I'm glad that the Yates is working with the Wise Family Foundation and you personally. So I want to ask this. I know that you've been involved into, again, making sure that people feel welcome in Omaha as a city. So what do you think those immigrants already here, those refugees already established in town that still are hesitating about being out there,
right.
Engaging, committed to the decision-making structure of the city? What do you think they should do? Why are we so afraid? How do you think we should tackle that?
That's such an interesting question. And in the 2016 presidential election, Warren Buffett really wanted to have more people go out and vote. And so we took a very direct approach to some of the African diaspora refugees and immigrants, because there are enough South Sudanese to influence, who are eligible to vote,
right,
to influence every single one of our elections. If the South Sudanese all voted, just the South Sudanese, not even all the other Somalis and
right,
Ghana and
right,
all of the folks, they would have a very strong voice in how public policy is made. And that matters so significantly about how community dollars are spent,
right,
where investment is made in the city. And so in 2016, we did some things where we made some videos in Arabic and in French, and we went to where they had to the churches, and the different Get Out the Vote organizations came out. I do think that it's really important for people to understand that their vote is private.
right.
They don't need to be afraid about who they vote for or why they're voting. Their vote is private.
Right.
Whether they vote is public. That's how I know that the South Sudanese are not voting in the
Right.
numbers they should be or could be. But who they vote
Right.
for is private.
Yes.
And there's not going to be retaliation. And I worry a lot about democracy in America, because unless each of us are contributing our voice,
Right.
we won't have the representation we want.
Right.
And I think we saw that in 2016, and I think we continue to see that. And it's important for us to be civically engaged.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what party. There are so many. The great thing about Nebraska
Right.
is that we have a unicameral,
Right.
and it's nonpartisan.
Right.
And the regents for the university system is a nonpartisan election, and you don't have to choose a party. You
So
don't have to.
let me ask you this, Kathy. How do you see or foresee the Yates initiative weighing or impacting on this overall participation of the immigrants into the voting?
Well, even at the open house that we had the other night, and I hope you'll get to see some of those photos. I know Pierre was taking some.
Right. Can't wait.
Even at the open house, we had Nebraska Civic Engagement table there, telling people. It was right before the municipal elections, so we wanted to make sure people knew where to vote.
Right.
Make sure they knew if they were registered to vote. And having that presence there, and having people who speak multiple languages and can help people understand that they can vote or can't, figuring out what their eligibility is,
Right.
is really important. And I do think that there are several people who are interested in joining the Yates movement. The ACLU would like to be there.
Right.
There are a few other, Immigrant Legal Center, other places where they know the power, the political power of voting.
Right.
And it is my sincere hope that civic engagement, you can't be more civically engaged than the Gifford Park Neighborhood Association. So they have found a beautiful home, and I know that neighborhood association, Alex Goswami is the president right now.
Right.
And she and her partner, he ran for county commissioner. They're very engaged in the political system, and I know that they believe that the diversity and equity and inclusion of all of the neighbors
Right.
is critical for representation. So how do I see them getting involved? I think that it'll be hard to keep civic engagement away from Yates,
Right.
because so many of us care so deeply about democracy.
Indeed, a great someone that I know once said that there is power in voting. There is power also in not voting, but you want to make sure we use that latter power, right?
That's right.
So and let's stick with the Yates. Any dates as to big opening, and do we have a date yet as to when people will actually gather? I know with COVID-19, seemingly being contained, if we can say so. What do you see, or when do you see this happening actually?
Well, I'm very excited because the governance group has met and they're already working on how to get people inside the building before construction is complete.
Right.
But we do need to have an elevator put in, and I can't even tell you how long a process that's been.
Right.
I guess steel is hard to find these
Right.
days. But we have a plan now. We have the governance committee working to get people inside and also to figure out how to host events outside.
Right.
And we've been talking about a walk-in clinic. So there will be some activity in the Yates space
Right.
before the tenants move in officially.
Right.
I can't wait for the grand opening.
I can't wait either.
I can't wait for the grand opening. It's going to be a terrific celebration.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for tuning in. And this is Kwazambia African TV. Again, we're having Dr. Kathy Weitz here talking to us about the Yates initiatives and her contribution and involvement, providing support to making sure that the Yates mission is fulfilled. And we're talking about it, and we're providing more light on what immigrants and refugees in the community will need to do in order to participate into these beautiful programs coming up. Kathy, a frank question for you. You know you couldn't escape that. All right, so if you were in position of high power,
Yes.
I'm not going to say the name of the position.
Okay.
If you were in position of high power here in Nebraska, and you were to make two major decisions in terms of ensuring that immigrants and refugees here in Omaha feel like welcome, feel like having those opportunities available to them, what will be those executive orders for you from you?
I think one that's very important to me is that we figure out how to recognize the skills and credentials of people who are coming here from other countries,
Right.
because a lot of times those credentials don't translate and people aren't living the life they want to be living.
Right.
I think the second thing that I would like is to do right away is to make sure that they don't have to, that new Americans don't have to go from here to there to every which place.
Right.
It's so hard and confusing, the bureaucratic
Yes, it
paperwork,
is.
the multiple places you have to go to get services, knowing what you're entitled to, what you're not entitled to. I think making it very simple. So if, like Yates, we could have a one-stop shop, one kind of paperwork place, and hopefully Yates will be able to help with some of that.
Absolutely.
I also, do I get one more?
One more.
Okay, one more. I would like that every new American
Right.
have a voice in their community and in their school system, and that they feel welcome to lead us and show us the ways that they know
Absolutely.
of communal living and being a part of making things happen.
Kathy, thank you so much.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you.
I couldn't agree more, because I know that some of the things you just illuminate on are, in fact, some of the things that actually exacerbates the fears of a lot of immigrants and refugees in the community, who actually want to do things, who want to be out there, but still have fear. The fear of not having the right information, the fear of not having access to the right resources. And if you could bring that to us, wow, you have our votes for sure. Well, Kathy, one final word for those viewing us today that don't know anything about, what you're doing for the Yates project, and they just want to know more about what they can do to help you. It takes a village. What do you say to these people today?
I would say bring your dreams to Yates. We want you. We want you to bring your businesses and your stories and your crafts and your art and your heart and your minds to Yates.
Yes.
And share with us. And share with us. We're ready for you. We want you. So that's what I would want people to know. And I also would want people to know that it's because of you that this has happened. It's not Weitz Family Foundation. It's not even the coalition of the willing. It's the individuals who were willing to speak up and tell their truth.
Yes, absolutely.
You can make change.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here again and talk about the Yates Initiative, talking about Dr. Kathy Weitz and the Weitz team and the Weitz Family Foundation and all that they're doing to make sure that immigrants and refugees that come here to Omaha feel like home, like Omaha becomes their next home. This is what we do, and we want to thank all of our viewers and all the people who have participated and contributed in either way possible to making sure that the Yates is saved and that the Yates can actually work for the greater Omaha community. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for tuning in. My name is Frank Tucker. Next time, we'll talk more about what's coming next with the Yates. Thank you, and see you next time. Horizon d'Afrique, a production of Kwazambia African TV, bridging Africa to the world.
This program has been brought to you by the Yates Initiative. Together, we are Yates.